From deceptively serene parks where it's rumored the restless ghosts of patients whose lives were stolen to nefarious practices roam after dark, to nearly ancient medical campuses whose still functioning hallways are purportedly stalked by spectral medical staff from a time long since past, are you ready to brave our third list of picks for some of the most haunted hospitals in the United States? Number 5. The Touro Infirmary. The Touro Infirmary, located off of Foucher Street out of New Orleans, Louisiana, is a historic hospital recognized for its founding of the first rehab program within the aged city, for its renowned family birthing center, and for acting as the Big Easy's only community-based, non-profit, faith-based medical campus. Historically, in 1852, the Touro Infirmary was founded under an endowment from businessman and philanthropist Judah Touro, and from 1911 and onward, the hospital would operate out of Uptown, from the historic Garden District. In 1922, the Touro Infirmary Maternity Service was established, earning the hospital the moniker of being the place where babies come from. In 1923, the site would be approved as one of only 15 hospitals okayed in the use of insulin, and in 1929, Touro would become one of the first hospitals in the nation to offer a physical therapy department, one that would actually set course for the nationally recognized rehabilitation center. More recently, in 2009, Touro would partner with Children's Hospital to form the nonprofit LCMC Health, which is focused on providing care from birth to geriatrics. Into the present, Touro remains open and active, offering a full range of hospital services, including emergency, preventative diagnostics, surgical, women's, cardiology, oncology, rehab, orthopedics, imaging, stroke care, and more. Despite its shining reputation as the place where babies come from, over the years, Touro has been slapped with a much more notorious label, one claiming that a very high percentage of the mothers of said babies experience complications, or even end up losing their children to easily preventable causes, and that this phenomenon is likely a result of paranormal activity on site. Across Touro grounds, staff, patients, and visitors have reported phantom cries that emanate from empty rooms, the squeaking of gurneys heard from vacant hallways, and instances of alarms sounding without cause. Unnatural hot and cold patches are felt in adverse conditions. Orbs and shadowy figures have been known to appear in the backgrounds of photography, and many have described feeling as if they're always being watched or closely followed by a disapproving presence unseen. Number 4. Legacy Park. Legacy Park, located off of 7 Mile Road out of Northville Township in Michigan, is the site of a former abandoned psych facility that's bounds contain a handful of vacant structures, most of which, as of the time of this upload, are currently facing demolition. Historically, through the mid-1940s, construction would be started on the Northville State Hospital, which would open its doors by 1952 and would feature 20 buildings over 453 acres of campus, and it wasn't long before the site earned renown as one of the top psych facilities in the whole of the US. Unfortunately, through the 1980s, budget cuts, limited staffing, and overcrowding would take their tolls on the hospital, and disturbingly, in 1983, a slew of investigative reports would find conditions within rampant with theft, assault, racism, neglect, and sexual abuse. Disgustingly, the hospital would be allowed to remain in operation for a good deal longer, pending massive overhauls. However, in 2002, its imminent closure was announced, and by May of 2003, all remaining patients were transferred to alternate facilities or to community settings. In 2009, residents of Northville would vote to purchase 414 acres of the old property, with the remaining 68 being transformed into retail space. And in 2017, another vote would result in the destruction of the weathered 8-story tower. In 2020, the expanse would welcome the addition of biking trails and a 1-mile hiking trail under its reofficialization as Legacy Park, and currently, plans to demolish remaining structures are set for this year, being 2022. While Legacy Park certainly doesn't fit the bill as your classic supernatural hotspot, local stories claim the whole of the area is haunted both by the souls of those whose lives were stolen so long ago, and also by restless spirits resulting from demolition and development, and those frequenting the now nearly invisible campus perimeter have reported disembodied footsteps from empty spaces, voices and whispers that emanate from dormant structures, and encounters with a range of full-bodied apparitions in clothing spanning the site's years of operation. Many have told of the feelings of being watched, of being followed, or even of being touched by a presence unseen, while several informal investigations have yielded high EMF levels, chilling EVPs, abnormal battery death in well-maintained equipment, and orbs, mists, and spectral silhouettes that appear in photography and video. Number 3. The Old Naval Hospital. The Old Naval Hospital, located off of the corner of Pennsylvania Avenue Southeast and 9th Street Southeast in the Capitol Hill neighborhood of Washington, D.C., is a historic campus recognized for its serving as headquarters to efforts that would eventually establish Martin Luther King Jr. Day as a national holiday. Historically, through March of 1864, President Abraham Lincoln would petition Congress to construct a new hospital, and by July of 1866, said site would open its doors boasting room for 50 patients, running water, gas lighting, and good ventilation. In 1906, hospital operations would be transferred to a newer facility, while from 1907 to 1911, the old site would be utilized as the Hospital Corps Training School and would teach sailors nursing, hygiene, and anatomy. In 1922, the expanse would be transformed into the temporary home for veterans of all wars, and would continue to serve said purpose until 1962, when it was acquired under the district. From the time of this acquisition and onward, the building would play host to a range of organizations. In 1998, it was left vacant, and over the years, the Friends of the Old Naval Hospital would amass funding necessary for a full restoration of the campus, which would begin in 2010. In the present, what is officially the Hill Center at the Old Naval Hospital remains in operation, hosting a range of annual events, concerts, and more, while offering tours of the premises for any with an interest. Rather chillingly, Old Naval Hospital grounds are suspected to be haunted by the souls of various staff members, students, and even of patients from its past, and those who have frequented its bounds have told of disembodied voices and footsteps heard from empty spaces, extreme cold spots on otherwise hot days, and instances of well-secured doors opening on their own. The full-bodied apparitions of several men in sailors' garb from the late 19th century have been spied roaming the structure's aged halls, often accompanied by early doctors and nursing staff, who appear so real at times several have suspected them a prank of some sort or a reenactment before watching them either disappear entirely or walk straight through solid walls or locked doors. Also reported at the Old Naval Hospital are orbs and strange mists in the backgrounds of photography, objects sighted moving on their own, and stories of lights flicking from on to off spontaneously, leaving all present in total darkness. Lastly, the manifestation of a legless soldier has been observed drifting eerily through the building, and some tell that in life, whatever man this ghostly form belonged to likely lost said appendages in battle and died later on site from his wounds. Number 2. The Butler Hospital. The Butler Hospital, located off of Blackstone Boulevard out of Providence, Rhode Island, is a private psychiatric and substance abuse facility boasting the title of being the state's first hospital dedicated wholly to mental health. Historically, land now holding Butler was originally recognized as Grotto Farm and held a brick abode constructed under Richard Brown in 1731. The hospital would be established much later in 1844 and would take its name after Cyrus Butler, who contributed heavily to its founding. Later the same year, the Grotto Farm would be acquired by the institution, with the hospital's first building, Center House, being finished by 1847, and over subsequent years, the property would welcome a slew of additional structures, many of which were connected to Center by way of wings or passages, and as a whole, that formed a shape not dissimilar to a crescent moon. Through the late 19th century and well into the 20th, the facility would continue to see expansion, until increased costs resulted in suspension of operations in 1956, after which the hospital would reopen the following year, albeit namely as an outpatient care center. Over the years and to date, this old campus has remained in operation while renting out excess space to various state and community agencies. In the present, Butler Hospital remains open, offering 6 inpatient treatment units, as well as 3 day program units, while acting as New England's only adolescent, adult, and senior psychiatric facility to provide both assessment and treatment for all major psychiatric illnesses and substance abuse. According to legend, the entirety of Butler grounds are roamed by the restless spirits of the many lost on site, alongside the souls of those who were connected to the campus in lives since past, and those frequenting its bounds have reported doors that open and close on their own, lights that flick from on to off spontaneously, and the perturbing feelings of being watched, followed, or even of being touched by a presence unseen. An assortment of objects have been sighted moving about on their own, or even floating in midair, while several patients have told of being awakened in the middle of the night to figures standing over them that always vanish when the lights are turned on. And an ominous lady in black has been spied wandering the halls after dark, and has been known to walk straight through walls or to disappear when approached. Lastly, a number of campus stories surround the nearby Swan Point Cemetery, where the remains of legendary science fiction horror writer H.P. Lovecraft rest, and that, in conjunction with the adjacent Butler grounds, actually comprise one of the largest urban green spaces on the Eastern Flyway. Across this expanse, many have told of encounters with a range of apparitions in clothing spanning the eras that are usually observed wandering about after sundown, and an assortment of silhouettes have been found later in photography and video taken in the area. Number 1. The Pennsylvania Hospital. The Pennsylvania Hospital, located off of Spruce Street in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, is a private teaching institution renowned for being one of the earliest established public hospitals in the whole of the U.S. Historically, the Pennsylvania Hospital was first founded under Benjamin Franklin and Dr. Thomas Bond on May 11th of 1751, with its first temporary campus opened on February 6th of the following year, just off of High Street, which is now Market Street. In 1755, the cornerstone would be laid off of 8th and Pine Streets for the east wing of what was to be the organization's permanent location, and by 1756, all patients held at the temporary site would be transferred to this new building. Over the years, hospital grounds would continue to grow, modernize, and expand, and in 1847, the American Medical Association would designate the site's library as the first, largest, and most significant medical library amassed in the whole of the United States. Through its history, Pennsylvania Hospital has accommodated military medical operations on numerous occasions, including through the Revolutionary War, through the Civil War, and through the Spanish-American War. In the present, the old expanse remains open, and is actually ranked as 13th top hospital in the nation, and is the top hospital in all of Pennsylvania under U.S. News & World Report's honor roll of best hospitals. Not surprisingly, the whole of the Pennsylvania Hospital campus is rumored to be haunted by the spirits of those many lost on site over its ridiculously lengthy existence. And into more recent times, staff, visitors, and patients have reported a slew of chilling happenings, including doors that open and close on their own, orbs and ghostly silhouettes that appear later in the backgrounds of photography, and instances of lights flicking off spontaneously, leaving all present in darkness. The top floor of the hospital plays home to the nation's oldest surgical amphitheater, which hosted countless operations from 1804 to 1868 and required surgeries be performed on sunny days, as there was no electricity and procedures were performed under natural light only. Those who have braved this floor have described encounters with shadowy figures that lurk in darkened areas, and impending senses of anxiety, of dread, or even phantom pains. One more active area of this weathered site is said to be its west wing, which was utilized to house the mentally ill from the time of its addition in 1796, and there, many have told of disembodied footsteps, voices, moaning, and even screaming that emanates from thin air, as well as of the constant feelings of being closely watched or being followed by something unseen. Also reported across the whole of Pennsylvania hospital grounds are objects sighted moving on their own, instances of alarms sounding without cause, and documentation from patients who swore they felt as if they were never truly alone within their locked rooms. A final, popular fable surrounds the ghost of William Penn, who it's claimed likes to climb down from his statue at midnight to wander about the campus. Taking its fascinating and prominent history into account, and coupling it with an impressive range of associated local legends and purported encounters with the otherworldly, we felt the Pennsylvania Hospital was the perfect choice as this list's most haunted hospital in the US. Thanks for joining us for our third list of picks for some of the most haunted hospitals in the US. If you enjoyed our histories and ghost stories, subscribe to our channel, like this upload, and share us with all of your friends. We'll catch you next time.